On Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we come together as a community for the most important days of prayer in our calendar. Jews have cried, laughed, struggled, and found hope over these words of our high holidays prayers for at least a few centuries. Some texts are older than others, but we can agree that this canon is pretty standard across the board and over a long period of time. I remember when I was 15, 16, I already knew most of the service by heart, so I could sing along without having to read every single page of the Machzor. My Hebrew wasn't that great back then, and I didn't understand most of what I was saying. So I decided to read through the entire translation while being able to sing along with the Chazan. Let me share with you a couple of examples from my research. Let us now relate the power of this day's holiness, for it is awesome and frightening. It is true that you alone are the one who judges, proves, knows, and bears witness, who writes and seals, who counts and who calculates. You will remember all that was forgotten. Or, for we are your people, and you are our God. We are your children, and you are our Father. We are your servants, and you are our master. Wow. Are we really saying all of that? That was a big aha moment for me. Thanks God, I come from a tradition that allows and even encourages questions and debate over our sacred text. Have you ever questioned the meanings of the words we say? Have you ever agreed or disagreed with them? Have you ever found hope and courage in these pages? Have you ever cried while praying? Have you ever closed the book out of complete discomfort with the content? If you haven't had these opportunities yet, I sincerely encourage you to dig deeper and struggle with these words, as Jews have done that over time and time again. I don't want that to sound like a new idea or a revolution that I'm offering to you today. This is really what we have done as part of our tradition. Our name, People of Israel, comes from the famous story of Jacob fighting with an angel. In that context, the Torah says that from then on, Jacob will become Israel. For it means the one who struggles with God and humans and prevailed. Another significant moment where we can see change as a key part of our tradition is an important alteration in the wording of the Kol Nidre. Rashi's son-in-law, Rabbi Meir ben Shmuel, in the early 12th century, and later his son, one of the most famous students of Rashi, Rabbeinu Tam, agreed with that. The original text aimed to nullify vows made in the previous year, while the change offered by them follows the original Talmudic precedent that can annul future vows that will be made in the upcoming year. Today, we hear the later version, Mi Yom Kippurim Zeh ad Yom Kippurim Abba, from this Yom Kippur until the next one. Although our Machzor, the Machzor Chadash, keeps both traditions within the page. Unetane Tokef, famous introduction to the Kedusha that we say during Musaf in Rosh Hashanah, begins proclaiming that the divine power that rules over us. Furthermore, the text states that God remembers even what was already forgotten, since God witnesses each and every one of our actions. And suddenly, after putting all the responsibility on God, an interesting phrase in this liturgical poem comes up. God opens the book of remembrance, and the record speaks for itself. Every person's signature is there. Wait, isn't God the one who writes in that book? How can I sign? Anyone here remember signing the book? Pretending that nothing shocking was just said, the text circles back to the same theme that we have seen in the beginning, where even the angels will be judged by God. On this day, every creature passes before God as a flock before its shepherd. Free will. Do we have it or not? What does Unetane Tokef says about that? Well, it depends. Which part are we talking about? Paradoxes and contradictions are actually common and part of our ancient tradition. If this prayer doesn't reflect 100% what you think, that's amazing. It means you have something to think about and struggle with. Can you imagine if we all just agreed with all that is in the book? We would each have our own book. One of my favorite teachings from the Talmud adds some nuance to this challenge. The rabbis in Yoma 69b credit Moshe with establishing the first blessing of the Amidah, since he said that phrase in the Torah, Devarim chapter 10. Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor Vehanora, the great and the mighty and the awesome God. In the same way, the rabbis note that that phrase was also said by other leaders of our people. And they give them credit for that, but they changed it a little bit. Jeremiah the prophet, for example, came and said, people are writing in God's sanctuary. He lived through the destruction of the first temple. So then the prophet asks, where is God's awesomeness? He wrote on chapter 32, O great and mighty God, whose name is Adonai Tsevaot, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor, but did not say awesome, Nora, in his prayer. Daniel, later on chapter 9, came and said, people are enslaving God's children. Where is God's might? We read in his text, Adonai, great and awesome God, who stays faithful to God's covenant. He said, Ha'el Hagadol Vehanora, but did not say Gibor, mighty. The rabbis refer to these texts as if they were changing their own prayers. And then the Gemara asks, how could Jeremiah and Daniel do this and uproot an ordinance instituted by Moshe, the greatest of all teachers, who instituted the mention of these particular attributes in prayer? Rabbi Elazar says, they did so because they knew that God is truthful and hates a lie. Consequently, they did not speak falsely about God, since they did not perceive God's attributes of might and awesomeness. They did not refer to them. Therefore, they cannot be criticized for doing so. This last Talmud story teaches that our values, our ethical behavior, takes precedence over the structure of our prayers. Our prophets understood that lying is worse than changing a prayer we cannot say. Our prayers are a source of inspiration and comfort, but not the only one. When challenged by an uncomfortable text, go deeper. Investigate its history, its development. Search for new and old different meanings for those words. There is beauty in coming together as a community and saying the exact same words over time and space. I moved from a different country. I grew up speaking different languages. And here I am, feeling at home because of this shared connection. There is beauty in the repetition, in the uniqueness, and in the changes we make. There is beauty in these pages, but not in the pages themselves, but in our complicated relationship with them. The beauty also lies in the music, in the flowers, in the people sitting right next to us. There is beauty in seeing this room full, and there is beauty in the intimate space we create when it's not. There's beauty in reading through the translations and commentaries, and in singing along. There's also beauty in closing the book, and there's also beauty in writing our own prayers. May we open more books in this upcoming year. May we be challenged by new and old ideas and prevail. May we find new paradoxes and contradictions and not be scared of them. May we change a word, a line, a page, so we can be whole with ourselves and our values. May we write ourselves in the book of life. Shana Tova.